about what's going on.
well, well, as you teased, we have the Bridgestone Experience, which is augmented reality web app, AR, augmented reality. It's like a hologram on your phone. So essentially, you go to our website and you initiate the experience. And what happens is through the camera on your phone, you can place our tour pros in your living room, on the first tee, in the pro shop, wherever you might be, and you place them down, and it's like they're standing there talking to you about why they play our golf ball, what they like about our ball, and it's a very unique experience. It includes Tiger Woods, Kuchar, Freddie talking about the RXS, and then Lexi talking about why she switched to the RX this year.
Well, this is an unusual thing that you guys have come up with. How did you come up with it as far as your team is concerned? Because I don't think anybody else out there is doing something like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we continue to look at innovation and on numerous fronts. Obviously, we push the envelope of innovation when it comes to the actual golf ball. We play within the USGA rules, and we push them to the max of what those rules are from a performance standpoint of the product.
Mm-hmm.
We also look at ways to innovate beyond the product. You look at the auto, the autonomous ball fitting that we came out with earlier in the year with the ball fitting robot, and a way for people to self-select a golf ball. And I think the Bridgestone Experience is an extension of the way that we continue to innovate beyond the product. Everyone's got a YouTube channel and a Facebook and a Twitter at this point that they communicate with the consumer. But we were looking for how do we make it more of an intimate experience and something that's a little bit different. And that's kind of how we settled in on the AR, the augmented reality for the Bridgestone Experience.
I'm learning so much of all these initials, the millennial way to talk now. I mean, I think it's great. So tell us more about Otto.
Yeah, Auto. Auto is an autonomous ball fitting cart, and so you think back to the original ball fitting that we pioneered, and we still do to a certain degree, which was the Pepsi Coke Challenge of golf. You hit your current golf ball. We get some data. Based on the data, the
Right.
technician that has you try a Bridgestone ball, and 8 out of 10 times we can show improvement when switching to a Bridgestone ball. And so that combined with some of our other fitting initiatives over the years, we've got over 3 million fittings in our database. And
Wow.
what we decided to do is how do we use the power of those fittings to help even more people? And so what Auto does is essentially it's self-service, right? So it's a touch screen that you answer a couple of questions about your game. You hit 3 shots, and Auto's talking to you the entire time, just saying, "Hey, welcome. I'm Auto. Welcome to the fitting. Let's hit some shots." After each shot, he calls out some numbers from the shot. You hit that one 248 yards. That's really good. Let's
I
try
wish.
another shot. And so as you're hitting all these shots, what Auto's doing on the back end is comparing your player profile to the profiles of those 3 million people that we fit, and saying, all right, based on what you're looking for performance wise and your launch conditions are, we most likely would fit you into ball XYZ. And that's kind of the secret sauce behind Auto is without all those live fittings that we've done for 16 years, we wouldn't have been able to do the autonomous fitting.
All right. How often, let me ask you this, because a lot of people get fitted for clubs, they get fitted for putters, and now you're talking about getting fitted for golf balls. How often do the average weekday golfer have to be fitted? Is it once a year? Is it once every 3 or 5 years? What is your timeline?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I typically answer this that every 2 years is a
Okay.
good cadence for getting golf ball checked on. And the reason I say that is every 2 years we come out with a new golf ball. And in the period of 2 years, your swing is likely to change. Your clubs are possible to change. Your physique and age are going to change. So all of those things are going to factor into how you're moving the club, which ultimately could factor into the ball that best fits your needs.
Interesting. Every 2 years need to get fitted. Well, I definitely am in that category. That's for sure. Um, Let me ask you this. You talked about on this Bridgestone experience that you worked with, Tiger and Freddie and Matt. And what was it like? Because I've opened up a golf course with Freddie Couples, and he's one of my favorites as far as being so laid back. But what was it like to work with Freddie?
Working with Freddie's great. I mean, when we go into these kind of activities, we don't really. There's not a script or anything of that nature. We kind of tell the guys what we're doing and let them get a grasp of what the goal is, and then they just kind of go to town in terms of what they want to talk about and what lines they want to deliver. And Freddie's as calm and cool, as collected as it gets, and everything you would expect Freddie to be, and a true professional, and could talk for days if we weren't on a limited amount of time when we're with him.
Yeah, he was a great guy. We opened up a club down here with him, and he was just awesome to work with. Um, our listeners about how Bridgestone got with Jason Day. That's a recent signing, isn't it?
Yeah, we officially signed Jason a couple of months ago. So the Jason Day signing is a little bit interesting, right? So, you think back to the importance of ball fitting, and that plays into how we got to where we are with Jason. So Jason had, through some like practice round off course stuff and then also competition stuff, been around Tiger and continued to see Tiger's Bridgestone Tour B XS performing and behaving in ways that his previous golf ball could not. And so ultimately he kind of reached out to us and said, hey, I want to try that ball that Tiger's playing, because he's hitting some short game shots that, quite frankly, no other ball is capable of doing. And so Jason was playing the Tour B XS for a little while, outside of contract with us. So we weren't paying him, but he played that ball for a little while, like almost a year, I believe.
Okay.
And then we kind of got with him, and we put Jason through the fitting process, which was very eye-opening for him. And we converted him to the Tour BX, which he's now playing. And then ultimately we decided on an endorsement deal. But I think it kind of speaks to two things. It speaks to the fact that Tiger still is the needle and gets people's attention at all levels, including former world number ones like Jason Day. And then I think it speaks to the importance of fitting, that, somebody may think that the Tiger ball is the ball that's best for them, but ultimately through fitting, we decide that there's maybe a better fit for all players.
All right, let me ask you, some people just like to use the ball that Tiger uses, or that Jason Day uses, or Freddie or Matt, and I know they all use different balls, but what happens if somebody with a slower swing speed uses the XS or the X? Is it going to show a significant difference in their game as far as the ball's not going to go as far, it may not perform as well?
Yes, I think X and RXS are a good example of this, right? So Tiger plays the X, which is it's a firmer ball, but it's a very high ball, right? We build that ball to spin so Tiger can work it right, work it left, hit those curvy shots they need to hit. What happens if you swing under 105 miles per hour? You're not going to compress that ball as much. And so what happens is you're going to lose ball velocity by not compressing it. The other thing is the ball's going to deflect off the face. And so since that's a high spin ball and it's having a deflective motion, if you hit a little slice, a firmer ball can exaggerate that slice to make it a bigger slice.
Gotcha.
So that's where a ball like the RXS comes into play. The RXS is similar characteristics to Tiger's ball around the green. It's in a softer compression core that's easier to compress for the guy that doesn't swing as fast.
Gotcha. I mean, that's a much better way to explain it, because a lot of people out there says, I want to play the ball that Tiger plays. And then they get that, and they're kind of disappointed in a way. So it's a good explanation. Probably, I hope, helps a lot of our listeners out there pick the right ball. But what's the future of Bridgestone golf balls? I mean, how much better, how much farther are they going to be able to go and perform better?
Yeah, I mean, I think we continue to play within the USGA rules and push the envelope of what those rules are. And from a distance standpoint, we're right up against the limits of what they allow.
Gotcha.
But I think the thing a lot of people don't realize is the rules around the golf ball, they primarily are geared towards performance off of the driver. And so when you get into the fairway woods, the irons, the wedges, the putter,
right,
the rules are very limited and or non-existent. So, I mean, I think you continue to see us pushing the distance to the max. But then you'll see coming out from us starting in January and continuing onward technologies to kind of push the envelope in other areas where the rules aren't as tight as they are around the driver.
Gotcha. So Bridgestone was at the PGA show in January. Not many of the majors were there. You guys were. I think it was great that you were. Coming up in January, will you guys be at the PGA show?
Yeah, we're talking to the PGA show folks, and it's our intent to be there. We're, obviously there's a lot of details to work through between now and January, but yeah, it's our goal to be back at the PGA show. It's the heartbeat of our industry,
yep.
And we were very successful there this past January. It was great seeing a lot of folks like yourself that we hadn't seen in a while, and we're looking forward to being back there again.
Well, I'll look forward to coming by and talking with you. And Elliot, as always, it's great to have you. And thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us, Rich. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. Elliot Mello of Bridgestone Golf talking about their new Tiger Experience with Bridgestone Experience and their new auto fitting system. Up next is Mark Raquel of Club Car Golf. But if you're looking for new clubs, you might want to try the new Mizunos, the 923, 925s. They will improve your game. The new Mizuno irons will help you reach beyond depths and distances you've never believed you would have. And then you want to take a look at their driver, the fairway metals, the hybrids, and the hybrids, I think, are some of the best that are out there. They will help your game improve. And try the new models of their putters. They got mallets, they got blades. Check out everything at MizunoGolf.com. That is MizunoGolf.com.
Corn Ferry Tour, and you're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're glad that you are with us. Club Car is the leader in golf carts and sport utility vehicles. And with us on the phone is VP of Club Car, Mark Raquel. Good morning, Mark, and welcome back to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Hey, good morning, Rich. How are you today?
I am doing great. Just got back from a little break. It was fun to get away and go to the North Carolina mountains. And speaking of travel, you're going to be at the President's Cup in Charlotte. Tell us about the President's Cup cars.
Oh yeah, we're very excited. Very similar to what you've experienced in the past with Club Car being there. We got two nice looking vehicles that'll be showcased, both for our team as well as the competitors' team. So looking forward to showing those off for everybody that comes out and enjoys the President's Cup this year.
What kind of special features will you have in these cars that you might not have in your normal club cars?
Oh, nothing special other than just some great looking colors to support the teams that are at play. But we really like to showcase the onward vehicles as the primary vehicle on course.
And you will then, as you have in the past, put those up for auction and give those to charity. Am I correct on that?
That's a part of it, Rich. Sometimes we'll allow the captains to purchase the vehicles as well. So it really just depends on what's remaining at the end.
Oh, it'd be kind of cool to see Davis driving around the island with that. That'd be fun.
It would be.
Yeah. So what are you specifically going to be doing at the President's Cup? I know your team will be there, but what will y'all be doing? Showing off and being at your little area where all the club cars are going to be?
Yeah, we enjoy taking our key customers to the event and entertaining them while we're there. And also we're supporting the PGA while, they're putting on the event themselves. So we also provide a lot of other vehicles in the background, supporting production and, all the other things that are required of the event.
Now, you and I have talked about the Onward brand, and when we were up in Savannah, saw some amazing things with the golf carts. That was really kind of fun. But I've also learned about the Build Your Own Onward. Tell us more about that. I found that fascinating.
Yeah, a lot of people like to personalize their vehicles, so we've created a configurator, and they can get on and create a product that may be lifted, special tires. They may want to have some sound bar systems in there. Special seats. So it just gives them a lot of flexibility in creating their own personalized vehicle.
And sometimes with a personalized vehicle, I know it also comes with a locking glove box, storage under the seats, a different kind of windshield. I mean, you can really, really add a lot of things that you would want in a golf cart that may not come with it when they buy it.
That's right. You can really tune it to your own liking. We look at it as just a lifestyle vehicle where you're cruising around in your neighborhood or some other amenities that may be local. You're seeing a lot of that as people are transitioning out of the automobile. It just makes it a little more fun for them and their families.
And when you order a golf car from Club Car, will you ask if they want it to be street legal? And so you have to put those extra attachments or special qualifications on it so it goes a little faster?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there is a street legal, opportunity. It's not inside the Onward vehicle, but certainly since we made the acquisition of Guerilla, now have an LSV that's a little broader. We did have a product prior in our Villager selection, but now the Guerilla selection gives a whole new meaning to, the LSV world. And that is street legal where you can drive it on the streets. It does have, the turning signals, the seat belts, the ROPS, rollover protection. And just gives you that added comfort as you're driving down the street.
So for our listeners who may have a golf car, but they don't have it street legal, can you share with us approximate costs to make it that way?
Yeah, it's a completely different product. So I would say the Delta is probably around that $6,000 to $7,000 range.
Okay.
It's not something you can add to your current vehicle. You'd really have to go in and create a new one.
Okay. And Mark, what's the percentage of golf carts being gas or electric?
Oh, that's a good question. So today we've seen a big lift in lithium ion, as you've seen that in the auto space. So electric is really surging in the industry today. You get a little more range out of it and certainly longevity. I would say you're probably in that 80% range that are now in the electric space.
Oh, wow. That's much more than I thought. And that's because of the lithium batteries and that they last longer.
Yeah, it makes it easier, right? So when you think about it, gas vehicles are certainly very functional, but as the world's trying to turn green, that gives them a different option to consider. And lithium has become very stable and more adopted, so we're seeing a big push there.
And there's a huge difference in the noise factor in the golf carts, whether they be electric or gas too.
That's true. There is
Yeah,
a lot quieter.
yeah, the electric is a lot quieter. You mentioned to me something that I know you can't talk about for 60 days, but I want you to tease our audience with this. Tell us a little bit more about the consumer car.
Oh yeah. Well, it's we've been working on bringing a new product to market for quite some time, as we've kind of chatted about over the months, and we're getting very close. In the next 60 days, you should start to see some marketing ticklers out there introducing the product, and I'm very excited. It's a product that we really took a great deal of time and effort around designing it from inside and out to bring comfort to wherever you want to go. And again, it's more of that lifestyle vehicle, but it's built more around that family experience and just a lot more fun. So a couple of tags with the Joy Bringers will be the Sun Seekers. You just think about any kind of slogan you want to add to it. It's just going to be a very exciting product inside of our portfolio.
And Mark, how have sales been during this critical time over the last couple of years for club cars? I mean, a lot of the golf manufacturers and the apparels have been skyrocketed with sales increases in double digits. How are y'all doing with that?
Absolutely the same. It's been amazing, but also quite challenging, as you can imagine, inside this environment. Very difficult from a supply base,
Right.
but also trying to keep your teams healthy and safe. And so we took a lot of precautions in making sure that we protected those folks that were building these vehicles and kept operations going. So it's just been an amazing time. And I think it's unprecedented, and I'm not sure I ever want to see it again.
Yeah, right.
I'd love to keep the volume, but don't want to see a pandemic again.
Well, it gives you an opportunity, though, to look inside to see what you could do to do better. And maybe without it, you wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Without a doubt. Yeah, we'll look back on this time.
Yeah.
There's been some tremendous learnings. There's a lot of challenges, as I shared, but the team's figured out ways to overcome and continue to produce at these record paces.
And the supply chain delivery, has that you been able to work on that and make it a little bit less time than you had before in the beginning of this pandemic that we were in?
Yeah, not really, but what we've been able to do is manage our flexibility on what we build, right?
Gotcha.
So it's you do have a certain amount of material on hand, and depending on how your supply is supporting you, or the deliveries are taking place, we've found a way just to be more flexible on the line and build what we can and continue to deliver on a very high volume.
Will you guys be at the PGA show in January again?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely going to be there.
That's a big deal for a lot of people. And, people that don't know about the PGA show, they probably heard about it, but they know that, the everyday person off the street can't go. But it's a big time for you guys to meet with your clients, show off some of the new things that you're having, especially adapting to this mobile world that we're in.
Well, yeah. First of all, you're right. We love to get close to the customer. It's an exciting time to show off new product. It's also a nice time to learn about new products that are in the industry and share ideas. But as you talk about the micromobility space, it's expanding at a very rapid pace, and so you have a lot of interested seekers on what's the new products on the road, not just in the golf car space. So we'll be bringing some very interesting products this year to the PGA show.
And I know one of the products that, people want is it's getting more common to hear music. And that's why you have that sound bar addition that you can use on your customization of your golf cart. But music is a big deal now.
Oh yeah. Music is a big seller, both in the golf cars as well as in the personal vehicles. It is our number one take rate option.
Premium seats have also got to be a great upgrade, because I've been in some golf carts and the seats are not very comfortable.
It kind of makes it hard to get in a vehicle without the custom seats anymore, doesn't it, Rich?
It is, it's like, when I was growing up, and I know I'm dating myself, having the plastic on the sofas, you just kind of slide across. I mean, yeah, the custom seats are just, I mean, they're incredibly comfortable.
Very comfortable. Hate to admit it, I remember those plastic covers.
I'm sorry to say we're in the same boat. I understand that. So give us the website so our listeners can go to your site and take a look at all that Club Car offers.
Yeah, absolutely. Come visit us at clubcar.com, and would love to help you with the development of a new onward vehicle, but also take a look at all the portfolio.
Mark, I can't express to you enough my thanks for being with us. I've enjoyed our relationship and enjoy the President's Cup, and I'm sure we'll talk via text or whatever before you go down there.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. It's a joy to join your show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark Raquel of Club Car, always a pleasure going to the President's Cup, and we'll talk more to him about that experience because that is going to be one great event coming up in Charlotte. And our next guest is Gary Williams, and he'll be up, formerly of the Golf Channel, now with 5 Clubs podcasts. And we'll talk to him in a minute about some of the things at Golf Channel, some of the issues going on. Interesting news this week from LIV about some of the restrictions on the players that now that we've been able to look inside some of those previously disclosed contracts, it'll be interesting to see. Pat Perez saying that he's now disappointed, maybe didn't look at everything. We'll be interested to talk about that. But now we want to talk to you about monthly specials created by the local elementary schools at CJ's Italian Restaurant. A small family-owned and operated business, and their food is made in the kitchen from scratch every morning, including the pizza doughs, the breads, the sauces, the dressings, the toppings, the meatballs, the lasagnas, and that list will go on and on and on. Produce is delivered fresh and prepared daily. They take pride in their food, their customer service, which they do a great job of, and they're known for their deep dish pizza. But their thin crust and their cauliflower crust pizzas are incredible. So is everything else. One of my favorites, as you know. CJ's Italian Restaurant. Check out the full menu at cjsitalianrestaurant.com.
I'm Grayson Sigg, and I play professional golf. Welcome to the Back Nine Boys podcast show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. Our next guest was with Golf Channel for quite a long time. Now he's with 5 clubs. Let's welcome Gary Williams to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
Doing really well. It's been very enjoyable to be at a place that I grew up playing golf and kind of learned the game, which is Ridgewood Country Club. U.S. Amateur. It's been a terrific week. These kids most of them are kids. Stuart Hagestad, who lost yesterday, is not a kid, but they are supremely talented, and they're impatient. They just are not going to wait their turn. They're capable of doing anything.
Yeah, and that's a joy to watch that and to see their confidence and their abilities and their mentalness, if that's a word. They're just ready to play anybody.
Truly. And but being out there the last 3 days, one thing about when you look at seeding in a U.S. Amateur, I think it needs to be understood that this is a 36-hole stroke play qualifier over 2 golf courses. They're not that familiar with it. I don't consider, a lot of these matches to be significant upsets based on the seeding, but they're also capable. I mean, the fact that you had a 15-year-old kid in the quarterfinals. You had a young man who plays Division III golf in the quarterfinals, and you've got 2 kids who are going to play each other today in the semifinals. Ben Carr and Derek Hitchner, who they're obviously very good college players, but they don't have the profile.
Right.
It's on the other side. Again, there's a level of poise and preparedness that I don't think was present among the depth of amateur golfers 20 years ago.
No, not at all. And we're thrilled because Ben Carr is from Georgia Southern, which is not far from us. And I saw his interview yesterday. He seemed pretty emotional about it, that he was being able to advance even more.
Yeah, I think that, when you start to make a run in an amateur and the diminishing returns of looking around and going, oh my God, there's only 8 of us left here.
Yeah, right.
There's something that affects you. Plus, I also think that they're all aware of this in talking to them yesterday. And I don't want to project ahead, but it's natural. But look, the winners today know that one of the greatest consolation prizes in golf awaits the 2 winners today, because tomorrow you want to win the U.S. Amateur, but you're still going to the Masters, and that is a huge deal. And
yeah.
Eric Hitchner, we talked to him last night. He said, I cannot not think about that. And he said, as much as I think about it, it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem true. And so these are emotions and intellectual thoughts that most of these kids have never had before.
Yeah, and this is golf at its purest. I mean, the distractions are obviously there, not as much as when you move up to the next level, but this is golf at its purest, where they're out there, their friends and family are there, kind of comfortable surroundings on a golf course against other college players and U.S. amateurs. I think it's just a very cool sight.
It is, and I will tell you, yesterday, Ridgewood Country Club it did a really special thing. One man in particular, gentleman Dave Repetto, took on the task of trying to find the 200 players from the 1974 amateur that was held there 48 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Found almost 180 of them, and they were all invited back to this lunch yesterday, and many of them came, including the guy, Jerry Pate, who won the amateur. And I'm out there yesterday watching matches, and there's Jerry Pate walking close to these matches 48 years after he won the event on that golf course. And I had a nice chat with him, and that is a special quality that you don't see in other elite competitions. That the scale of the events are so big. There's an intimacy to this that is it's a walk back in time.
Yeah, it really is. And it's really kind of cool that the guys wanted to come back and see what was going on, because that's where their careers started. All right, Gary, let's talk about the elephant in the room of what's going on in this battle between the PGA Tour and LIV. What's your take on it?
I think that the PGA Tour went into this going back to look. This was something they were aware of well before the start
Right.
of the new year.
Right.
And I think that they leaned in way too much on their own tradition, their own legacy, and didn't realize that they were fighting an opponent that does not care about any of those things, and that they have made an entry into other sports in a very abrupt way, whether it be F1, whether it be UFC, whether it be women's golf, whether it be the Premier League in soccer. The Saudis don't care. And if they want something, they just go take it.
Right.
I think the PGA Tour, look, it's very hard to fight an opponent that doesn't apply market principles to the business that they're entering into. And I think that there was a level of arrogance, which I think was short-sighted on their part when they showed up at the players, and
Yeah.
acted as if the threat had been killed.
Yeah.
I thought that was naive on their part. And now what they're doing, look, they're chasing something now because they got behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that they are, from what I understand, doing a number of good things. But this is not going to stop the defections. There's going to be more, as you guys know, when the PGA Tour playoffs end next week at East Lake. There's going to be a handful of players that are going to make the move and turn up in Boston for the next live event. I think that ultimately what we're going to find here, as we know now what the court date is going to be with respect to the players suing the PGA Tour, is not going to come till 2024. I think ultimately there will be a cleansing. And what I mean by that is they're never going to partner with Live Golf. That's not going to happen.
I agree.
I think is there will be a re-entry point for some players to play, whether it be 5, 7 events on the PGA Tour. So they will acquiesce to some degree because they're losing value with the quality of fields that they need, because that exists in contracts with corporate sponsors.
Right.
But I do not think a partnership will ever happen.
No, I don't either. There might be some kind of a combined solution, but a partnership, no. Do you think Jay Monahan has handled the situation correctly?
No, I think that there have been things that Jay has done, including again the Players Week.
Yeah.
As I said that week, I said, look, this is they won a little battle. They didn't win the war here, and I thought that the PGA Tour has become such a dominant force in professional golf that they haven't faced a threat like this really ever. So I'm not saying that it was natural to feel this way. I think that Jay was in a position of reacting too much as opposed to being proactive, and I think they're trying to get themselves back in that position. I do think that Jay has always been somebody who listens intently to his players, and he has no choice now. And I think that, from what I understand, that Rory and Tiger specifically have taken on a very significant role, being essentially the conduit from the PGA Tour directly to the players with messaging. But I think that Jay has a chance to right this, but I think they're in this position because I think that they did not prepare themselves properly for what this threat really was, which is a hostile takeover with no desire to make sure that anybody's feelings are maintained or not damaged. The Saudi government, the sovereign wealth fund, these guys, like I said earlier, they don't take into consideration anybody else's concerns. All they care about is their end game. And that was misunderstood by the PGA Tour, and they're paying the price for it now.
Yeah, and bottomless budgets. I mean, they don't care what they spend. They're not looking for a return. They just want more and more.
Yeah, I think that, at some point, and I've tried to study this as best I can to understand, what the public investment fund
Right.
is as they kind of prepare themselves for a post, not oil dependent economy, and as they look at themselves 10 years from now. There has to be some kind of end game. There has to be some strategy to where they feel like this was well planned, and what they've done to be kind of a loss leader, to project themselves as a society and as a government to be in a better place than they were when they started this. Doesn't mean it's a monetary thing, but at some point they have to say this has worked or it hasn't worked. And I don't know if that's 2 years from now or 5 years from now, but they have to do that examination. But it's not going to happen tomorrow. That's why they're going to continue to acquire assets, gobble up as much of what is the most important thing to the PGA Tour, which is their players, as best they can.
Yeah, I was in the North Carolina mountains for a couple of days and met with some lifelong friends. And one of them said to me, "What do you think the business model is for LIV?" And I said, "Spend." I mean, all it is spend and disrupt at this point.
Yeah, that is the word that you just used. I think is disrupt. They are a disruptive force.
Yep.
And they have somebody who is leading them, and Greg Norman, who is, in many circles in golf, is a very toxic figure, but in many ways, for their objective, the perfect figure. I wonder though whether Greg's sustainability, if they get to this point of trying to find some level of coexistence, if that's maintainable for the R&A, for the PGA Tour, for the other entities in the ecosystem, look at him and go, you're too disruptive. If we're going to make this happen, you have been so inflammatory toward everything in an effort to gain their objectives, which he's doing right now.
Yeah.
I just wonder for him where 2 years from now, where he's going to be.
Yeah, I thoroughly believe that when he says coexist, I mean, he's not trying to do that. And I don't think, as you just said, that they can do that with him there. So there could be a pretty big change whenever that does happen. Gary, we got to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Gary Williams with 5 Clubs right after this on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Hi, this is Jimmy Roberts from NBC Sports, and you are listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're with Gary Williams with 5 Clubs. And Gary, we've been talking about LIV. We've been talking about Norman not being in the position maybe in a couple of years. But let's also talk about what's come out with all these suits that have happened. We've been able to, kind of get into some of these contracts with LIV and the players, and a lot more restrictions than I think the players might have thought, or maybe they didn't look at the fine tuning, but it seems a lot more restrictive to them than it was for them on the PGA Tour.
I think that's a very fair assessment. I think that, for all of the bluster about ushering in free agency in professional golf, they are more stringent on what their players can do far more than the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Now you can say, well, wait a second, they're letting them play on the PGA Tour. That they're letting them play there as a way to showcase Live Golf in weeks in which Live Golf is not playing.
Right.
They have a 100% commitment to play every single Live event, no matter where it is, whether it's Bogota or whether it is Bangkok or whether it's
Yeah.
Bangor, Maine.
Yeah.
They have got to be at all of these events, not to mention the other things that they are doing with respect to messaging, advertising, sponsorship. So these guys are not
Yep.
arbitrarily putting like Live Golf on their hats, on their sleeves, on their collars. These are all things negotiated into these contracts, which again, whatever they say that they've got to do based on the guaranteed money that they have received, which is a very different dynamic than the PGA Tour, these guys have to do it. That is totally different than the existence that they have currently on the PGA Tour.
Correct. And sometimes when you see the amount of money that they were given, some, got more upfront than others. Sometimes you overlook the fine print because you're looking at the big number.
Yeah, and I think that that's true. I'd like to believe that these guys were well represented by lawyers looking
Yeah.
at the language in these contracts. But
Yeah.
this is such a new thing for all of these players to look at guaranteed money in a sport in which it was all based on the merits of performance, with the exception of all the things that you can get from sponsorship away from the golf course. This is NFL-like money. This is NBA-like money. It's uncharted waters. But to not know to the degree that I think these players weren't necessarily fully aware of the commitment that is required of them, I think is true. And I think what's also going to be interesting for them going forward is, the idea of okay, this money's great, but their brands, are their brands going to be solely associated with Live Golf?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of great players have provided other avenues to advance what they want to do beyond the game of golf. And for all these players who have gone to Live, and I find this messaging to be very hollow, that they want to play less. Wait a second, you're telling me that you spent your entire young life
Right.
building toward the dream of playing at the highest level
Yeah.
at 28, 30, 32, you now want to play less golf?
Yeah.
It's so counterintuitive to everything that they've ever tried to do up until this point. So I'm really interested in seeing what the next year looks like. And also, look, the President's Cup is going to be in the town that I now reside in, which is Charlotte. Is it going to look like, something that was nothing like we thought it was going to look like in terms of the depth on the international side? Obviously, some of the American players that may or may not have been on that team, those type of events, the Ryder Cup coming up in Italy next year, and will the European Tour acquiesce to some degree? And I was told last week by somebody very close to some players on the European side that the likelihood of re-entry to the European Ryder Cup system is far more likely to happen than on the American side. I find all of these things that we're going to see going into 23
Yeah.
and into 24 to be really, really interesting.
I do too. And, the Europeans have a score to settle, so that may be one of their reasons for doing that.
Yes.
But look at what happened yesterday. Pat Perez now having second thoughts because he said, I'm not sure I made the right decision.
I read what Pat said, and I think that, look, he was very careful about making sure that he said that he was 100% committed
Right.
to Live Golf. But I do believe that I understand his sentiment. Like, this is a great cash grab for him. Like, whoever thought, as he is on, the backside of 40 now, to get this found money, not to mention the purses that they're going to play for. But Pat Perez plays golf. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And beyond the age of 50, Pat always envisioned himself playing PGA Tour champions. And I think recusing himself from this suit leaves himself the opportunity for when this cleansing happens, which there's an inevitability to whatever degree it does happen, that there is a re-entry for him to play beyond the age of 50, which I think he has every intention to want to do. So I'm not surprised he did it.
Yeah.
He also is very careful to say, I'm 100% behind my decision to go, and I'm 100% committed to live. But I think it was smart on his part to get out of the suit because nothing is going to be decided on it for over a year anyway.
Right, right. But I've also heard that the Live is a pre-Champions Tour, which if you look at the ages of a lot of the guys, I totally agree with that and understand that. But let me ask you one more point before we've got about a minute left. What do you think about the suit between Reed and the Golf Channel where you were and Brandel Chambly?
I read the suit and I find it to be a complete, utter waste of time.
Totally.
The man who is representing him look, lawyers by their very nature have a litigious bent to them. I find this to be one of the more imbecilic lawsuits that I've ever seen.
Yep.
The frivolity of the whole thing is embarrassing to Patrick Reed, and the fact that money is going to have to be wasted, whatever degree it is, to defend Golf Channel and Brandel Chambly is preposterous.
Yeah, and the amount is just insane. Gary, can't thank you enough for taking the time. Enjoy the U.S. Amateur, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
I look forward to it. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Gary Williams, formerly of the Golf Channel, now with 5 clubs, talking about all this LIV. And I know you've heard enough about it. I have too, but it's not over, and we're going to hear more about it. So thanks for listening to us on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Hear us every week on back9boys.com and on ESPNcoastal.com. Thank you for being with us. Have a great weekend. Hit 'em straight.
You've been listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show with Rich Stiles. Go to back9boys.com for all things golf whenever you want it. We'll be back next week.